And we're live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode or weekly show of Grenada Matters. As always, I'm joined with my co-host, Mr. Earl Maitland, the Grenada Empowerment Movement leader. Mr. Maitland, how are you?
I'm fine, Ingram. How are you? How is England?
England is good. England is good. More craziness going on because of the lockdown. Everyone's got to wear masks as they're going to supermarkets now, so that's the new thing. So, what about for you?
Well, I'm doing just fine. We have today with us, Brother Raphael Paul, Mr. Pablo, right? Grenadian citizen who has been doing tremendous things in Grenada as well, under different hats, right? And it is a pleasure to have you with us today, Uncle Pablo. It is a
Absolutely.
pleasure, right?
Yep.
So for the persons who of you and that might not know Uncle Pablo on this platform, I just give him the opportunity to reveal the gentleman.
Oh, well, good afternoon, evening, whatever the case may be, depending on which time zone you're in. This is Raphael Paul, as you were told. Most everybody call me Pablo. But then again, depending on who's doing the calling, you might hear somebody referring to me as Ray or Uncle Ray or whatever. I'm involved I've been a community development advocate and worker and officer for many years. I've had the opportunity to work along with Ms. Judy Williams with the Grenada Community Development Agency, Grenada. Grenada was the first agency to establish a school book and uniform program in the country. And I'm also associated with the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, one of the major political entity after the NNP in the country. I used to host the flagship program, the Heartbeat, which comes on Sundays. I did that from June of 2018 until the 19th of January this year. Last Saturday, I started a new show on Gem FM. Doing a Saturday afternoon show from 1:30 to 3:30 that I call The Comfort Zone. And for the past few times, I've been also on Gem FM with my colleague here, Brother Earl Maitland. We on the talking point that's with John Callis and so. And so we have a particular interest in seeing what's good for Grenada. Seeing that we get good governance in the country. Although we are part of different political entities, we do have common interests, which is what is best for the country. And we do not allow our partisan position to interfere with us collaborating in the interest of betterment for Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. So in a nutshell, that's who I am. I should also tell you that I do leathercraft. And if I may just demonstrate to you, that's some of the work that I do. I have a page, so those push-toe slippers and so and belts. I have
bring it close to the camera so we can see the work.
I have a page. The title of my Facebook page where I display my work is called Rayblo, Rayblo Leather Creations. So if you go on Facebook and you type in Rayblo Leather Creations, you will see all my work demonstrated there and so.
Absolutely, yeah? I'll look at it.
That's what I do.
Fantastic, great stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah.
I actually love those things. I actually love those things. Those are great things. The craft, and that is something that we should hold dear to us as Grenadian nationals, and we should always support local. Support local. it is important that we, as Pablo said, Ingram, we have collaborated over the past few couple years or so since we met,
Yeah,
because we do have the common interest, which is Grenada, Carbo,
definitely.
and Petit Martin. And
True,
not only Grenada, Carbo, and Petit Martin, but the betterment of Grenada, Carbo, and Petit Martin.
true.
I believe the first time that I met Brother Pablo was when we had this issue on the Grand Anse Beach with
On the
Silver Sand.
Grandans Beach. Yes, yes.
What our partisan politics would have been, whatever political party we would have been affiliated with. We put that
Hmm.
aside, and we were Grenadians first, and we will always be Grenadians first. Um,
True.
as a person that has not been a part of the new national, sorry, the NDC, right?
Hmm.
Brother Pablo gave me the opportunity to come on to his program that represented the NDC a few Saturdays to come and speak with us first.
Hmm.
It is a pleasure to have aka Pablo here with us today. Um, and of course, we are going to speak about the many injustices that we have in Grenada, Carco, and Pitimati. But in this particular segment, we are going to deal with police force, the Royal Grenada Police Force. And we have seen what is going to happen, the implications of allowing even the smallest breach of fundamental rights of a Grenadian citizen. We have seen the implications of that, especially as it relates to what had occurred since Saturday when we found out about that COVID-19 bill that was
Hmm.
proposed by the Attorney General and the government of Grenada. We have seen what implications it would have. That means that our rights would have been abrogated. We would no longer have had rights and so on. So, just a quick um, speech on it, Mr. Pablo. How did you feel as a Grenadian citizen when you read about that bill that was there? Especially the part that begs to give police officers so much authority, especially when it comes to the medical situations.
Well, one of the concerns that I really have is that it would have given more powers to the police, in spite of the fact that they already have a track record of treating the citizenry, um, you know, with very scant courtesy. They treat with the citizenry as though being custodians of the law, it makes them immune or
Mhm.
to upholding the law themselves. And we've had records of that. And one of the unfortunate things is that over the years, when we speak about atrocities of the police, there is a tendency for people to close ranks behind the police. You have people who would come up and would put up defense for the police, not appreciating the fact that one is human beings you're dealing with. And once you're dealing with human beings, there are people who are going to be in breach of whatever institution that is established. And that's why you have institutions, and that's the reason why there are terms and conditions that go with how you function within the framework of an institution. That's why there are terms and conditions, that's why there are penalties. And one of the concerns I have is that over the years, we find that whenever there is an issue, the police have a tendency to close ranks. There's been stories, there's been allegations of police doing particular things and there's a cover up really, that takes place. And that law would have given them much more powers than they had than they've had before. And for you to have a situation where just based on the suspicion or the report of a suspicion by someone, and the police could intervene, and you can lose your freedom, you can lose property, and you can lose your rights. And there's restriction as to the extent that you can go in terms of getting redress, because the bill stated clearly that you can take it to the magistrate court. And wherein a constitutional matter of that nature, you ought to be able to go as far as the High Court or the Supreme Court. So I find that it had the tendency, and I was very concerned that it was going to take away what we know as our basic human rights and human freedom, that we were going to lose that based on that law. And the police was going to have absolute authority. Now, this is not a case where you attacking the police, because in the construct of our society, the police is critical towards ensuring and towards the maintenance of law and order. Because even those of us, we may criticize the police when an issue come up, but it is related to that particular issue. Because if we in turn is faced with, if we are faced with a particular challenge, then these are the people that we go to in order to get the kind of protection, and so that we feel that we're entitled to. So it is not an attack on the police, but it's an appreciation of the fact that these are human beings, and they, like, in the human, I always say, perfection does not exist in the human domain. And as a consequence, we have to ensure that the institutions work, and that there are these conditions in place to make sure that people are able to get redress. And the other thing is, there is a tendency that when something happens, the police are allowed to investigate themselves. We have to get away from that, and we have to get citizens to be part of that construct when it comes to the investigation of the police. It mustn't be the police come in and have this citizen relationship just for their own convenience, because they come into the communities and they establish these committees and so that involve citizens. So it mustn't just be for that convenience. It must be across the board, so that when something happens, there's independent people as part of that makeup, as part of that construct. So that what's likely to come out of it would be authentic, and it would you would be able to find justice for the aggrieved people. So I was very concerned with that law.
And I do agree, because what you have done here, you have highlighted the fact that the police force has a duty to protect and serve,
Yes, they
and
do.
the law applies to our officers as well.
As
The,
well.
the
True.
perception that some persons may have, the law does
Mhm.
apply to them. And that brings me into a case that I have become aware of, a gentleman, Mr. Joseph Jacasal, who lives in Grenada, and is a citizen, and the way that he was treated. I actually documented the testimony of Mr. Jacasal, the situation that he has been through, and I brought it to the acting commissioner of police, who is Mr. Edwin Martin, and I also brought it to the attention of Mr. Barney Kerwin, the gentleman who is in charge of the community relations department. And as you have stated, Sir Pablo, it is an obvious problem that we have police officers investigating police officers, especially in Grenada. because I received no word, no acknowledgement of any kind from the police officers until I brought the information into the public domain approximately 18 or 20 days later, right? So this shows the level of respect that these police officers we have in Grenada. It shows the level of disrespect that they have for the persons who they have vowed to pay, um, you know, after there's something came up on the screen. You know, the disrespect that they have meted out to the people of Grenada who they are to protect and serve. So I'll just get right into it. Ingram, if you could pull up on the screen for me the letter, because of course we like to deal with facts here on the show. We do not wish to just come here and just criticize the police officers. But what we want to do is our civic duty. And I'm going to read and say, look, this is the situation. Ingram, the email, right? So this is what has happened. We actually sent this email to Mr. Vanny Kerwin and to Mr. Edwin Martin, right? So I'm going to read the letter that was sent, um, and we would see how disrespectful they can. Did you get the letter?
Right, it's there.
Right. So this is a copy of the email, right? So as you can see, at the very top, the subject is Attention COP and Mr. Vanny Kerwin. This was sent from myself from Gem Inc. 2010, and it was sent to the Commissioner's Office at the Royal Grenada Police Force at Spice Island to Mr. Vanny Kerwin, who, as I always is unfortunately the gentleman in charge of of internal affairs in the police department. So the letter reads as headed, Mr. Edwin Martin, Acting Commissioner of Police, Royal Grenada Police Force, Mr. Vanny Kerwin, Officer in Charge of the CRD, right? July 1st, 2020. Dear sirs, I wish to bring to your attention an incident that occurred on December 25th, 2019. Mr. Joseph Jacasal was arrested for what we believe to be public intoxication. According to what I have been, possibly had a cutlass in his possession, which he used to peel coconuts at the time. I have also been reliably informed that there was another incident across the street at that instant. Two people in an unrelated incident were reported to police. The officers arrested the two, then noticed Mr. Jacasal, who stood in an adjacent property, and arrested him as well. Now, the letter further goes on to say that Mr. Joseph Jacasal was arrested for what we believe to be public intoxication. No, sorry, I read that part. We're having some difficulties at this time. So the letter further goes on to saying, I have been informed this was on a Wednesday. Mr. Jacasal was kept in police custody and brought to the court the Friday. On that Friday, the magistrate cancelled the hearing, and as a result, the gentleman was sent to Richmond Hill Prison together with all the other arrested or detainees over the holiday period, right? He was eventually granted bail on or around All Year's Day. Now, upon his release, he returned to the police station at Grenville to retrieve his items, which consisted of a mobile phone, cutlass, jewelry, which included two rings of monies. Surprisingly, Mr. Jacasal was told by an officer that his confiscated valuables were not at the station of his arrest. He was then advised that he should return to Her Majesty's prison to retrieve his belongings as the items were sent to the prison. As advised,
Highly unusual.
the gentleman went to Her Majesty's prison. There, he was told by prison officers that the officers of the RGPF did not send any items belonging to him. He then went back to Grenville Police Station that there's nothing there for him, and he would again have to return to St. George's to file a complaint. As inconvenient and incomprehensive as it was for Mr. Jacasal, he did as he was instructed. To date, months later, and remember this letter was written on July 1st, months later, no representative of the RGPF has called the gentleman to update him on the matter, right? Because remember, he was St. George to report the issue to those in authority. I have been informed that his arresting officer was a Constable Philip, right? Now, in the letter, on the third screenshot that I have, it goes on to saying, nonetheless, given the mandates of duty, one would expect the public peace officers, because this is what police officers are. They are peace officers, right? So the public peace officers to allow Mr. Jacasal his right to make a statement about the possible theft of his valuables at the Grenville police station, which should be handed over to the CRD by police officers. And this is in law, this is in Regulation 116 of the Police Act. So seeing that this gentleman was actually asked to leave Grenville and be sent back to town just to make a statement on these regulations, right? Now, we also have the second point where we are saying that Mr. Jacasal should have been afforded the right to speak to the officer in charge of the Grenville police station at the time, because this is a right that we have. This is why we have police officers in charge of stations, right? Now, the officers were also to secure the valuables of Mr. Jacasal on the right to return and sign for collection, right? He was supposed to be updated as he has a right to be informed as to the progress of his complaint, right? I also placed in the letter very strategically that I urge the commissioner and Mr. Vanny Cohen to ensure Mr. Jacasal's rights are not continuously violated by Royal Grenada Police Force, who collect our hard-earned tax dollars. I trust you would either contact Mr. Jacasal or myself. I look forward to a speedy and favorable response, which you should include reasons why Mr. Jacasal's rights have not been considered, the location of Mr. Jacasal's valuables, reasons why his valuables could not be found, and discipline be taken by the RGPF according to the law, which is actually in regulations 32 and 33 of the Police Act. I certainly hope you can appreciate the consequence of this disgraceful absurdity. Regards, signed Earl J. Maitland, Grenada Empowerment Movement. So I need to take us back. Ingram? Right. So on what you have heard, how do you feel about such a situation where someone can be arrested, their valuables taken, which contains a watch, right? Watch, 2 rings, monies, and a cell phone. And then this cannot be recovered when you return to the police station where you were at first incarcerated, where you actually signed a station diary saying that these valuables were taken away and it would be returned to you upon your release if you are granted bail or the court has dismissed the whole case that the police have taken. Remember, when someone is arrested and charged, even for being intoxicated in public, it is up to the court to determine whether the person is innocent or guilty. So at that point, it was just a simple case of the gentleman being fined or being placed on bail. And then he was to return from the court, get his items, and go about his business. You
Mhm.
know, how do you feel about that? Uncle Pablo, I know that you are a citizen of Grenada. You're a law-abiding citizen. You're doing your craft. You've been
Mhm.
speaking to the people. You've been telling them, listen, we have rights and we must exercise our rights. We must continue to be law-abiding citizens. So how does that make you feel?
Well, I don't think anyone would want to be in such a position, right? Um, the, did the police in Grenville, were they able to present any record of what the items were that they confiscated from the gentleman on arrest?
No, and that is a very good question. You know, and according to the commissioner, the acting commissioner of police, Mr. Edwin Martin, thank you for that question, Mr. Pablo. Now, to answer your question, I have written to the commissioner of police and the gentleman, Mr. Barney Cohen, who is in charge of investigating such a matter since
Mhm.
July the 1st. And these gentlemen have refused to respond. They have refused to respond up until, as I said, when I brought this thing public on
Mhm.
let me tell you what, 5 days ago. So that would
Mhm.
have been on the 22nd. So I actually gave them 21 days, 3 weeks to respond to a simple email. 3 weeks, right? In the inception of the whole matter where I came and I said, look, this is the situation. I, as a taxpaying citizen who wants to better the relationships between police officers and civilians, I would like the commissioner to actually stand by his word. I would like Mr. Vanny Cohen to stand by his word. We many times had him get on the television with their fancy terms, their political terms, saying that, you know, we are here and we would like our citizens' rights to be appreciated and we will not stand for corruption within the police force. But this is not what is happening. You know, and the commissioner did not even have the professional courtesy to even acknowledge the email. And being a law abiding citizen as myself, one who does not wish to publicly criticize the RGPF, I actually sent back an email and I said to the gentleman, the two gentlemen, that it has been so much time has passed. And I would like to let them know that, you know, I am feeling forced to actually have to go to the public and let the public
Mhm.
know that this gentleman has suffered great loss and at the hands of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
Mhm.
And with that being done, I gave them up until Friday, the Friday. Let me tell you what Friday that was. I believe that was Friday, the 17th or so, you know, for a response. They did not respond. I did give them a grace period, you know, because as I said, the police force, you know, we do appreciate good and hard working officers who make sacrifices. But when we have these two gentlemen who refuse to stand by their word and stand by the law, it is very unacceptable and it must be brought to the public domain. And it was only then that I received a response after it was brought to the public domain, approximately 8 hours later after bringing it to the public domain. So what is happening here, Ingram and Pablo, is that Mr. Jacasal was victimized. He was oppressed. His items were stolen, basically, right?
Mhm.
And he spent from January to July approaching the police, running back and forth from Grenville to town, from Grenville to
Mhm.
town once again. And he received no word. He received no word. And it took 8 hours because someone decided to bring it to the public domain. To me, this spells out corruption. You know, as the C for corruption seems to be the same C that is in commissioner of police. They both seem to mean the same thing. You know, how
They're
do you
synonymous with each other.
yeah, they are, you know. So how do you feel, Mr. Pablo?
Um, it comes back again
Hmm.
to the need for there to be some sort of independent oversight, right?
Hmm.
For situations like that. Not only to, well, generally speaking, to investigate when there is some allegation about police misbehavior or whatever. There
Hmm.
need to be some kind of oversight that is independent of the police in themselves, so
Hmm.
that you can you would have been able not only to write to the commissioner, but to take it to
Hmm.
that body who will do have a review of the situation and do an authentic investigation, so as to ascertain the facts of the matter. You know,
Hmm.
um, this is critical, right? And if we are to grow as a society, society can only function well when the institutions, when they are proper institutions, and when the institutions are allowed to work as they're supposed to. In the absence of such, the police will always feel that they can treat with such citizens as they choose to. And it brings to mind that incident that we had recently with the foreigners physically abusing that local person, and the way the matter was treated with, right? As against this gentleman, yes, he sells coconut, he peels coconut, and so he was intoxicated. And you
Hmm.
feel that you cannot just arrest him, take
Hmm.
away his stuff,
Hmm.
and he is charged. He was sent on remand. He's been
Hmm.
released, and he can
Hmm.
get his belongings how many months after? And
Hmm.
what recourse does he have? Right? He may not be in a position to go out there and get an attorney, as some people might be able to do, to go and fight his case and so forth, for him. So as a consequence, the police already has this absolute power in their hand, where they can treat with certain individuals, certain parts of the citizenry as
Hmm.
they feel, and there's no recourse for them. They have no penalty to pay. And as a
Hmm.
consequence, I mean, there you are with that issue. And if it wasn't you presenting it, the nation wouldn't know about it. All
Hmm.
right. Now, how many others like that are there that haven't
Thank
come
you.
to your attention? You know,
Thank you. How many others are there?
how many
That is
others
a
are
very
there?
good question.
You know,
Very good question.
so
Oh,
we need to get to that place where the
Hmm.
police don't see the citizenry as a convenience, where
Hmm.
you come into the community and you say you're establishing this citizen advisory committee, and so we need to go further than that. And we
Yeah.
need to put in place, we need to have the citizens of the country, credible people, being part of that oversight body that would address,
Hmm.
issues and situations like that. It is critical.
And you are correct. Too many times it actually hurts me, right,
Mhm.
to the heart, that a gentleman who might just be with a cutlass peeling coconuts would be treated
Mhm.
so much differently to a man who is able to afford dining at the most
Mhm.
expensive restaurant or hotel in Grenada, right?
Yeah.
Too many persons are treated differently. right? Now, as you said, look at how easily they apprehended this gentleman and brought him in themselves and even sent him to the prison. But we had two other persons, foreigners, who were treated differently. The period actually applied, the investigative period, and so on. Now, I also would like to know, whenever we get a chance to meet with the commissioner, because as I said, when it went public, they invited the gentleman to come there. But
Okay.
knowing that the commissioner and Mr. Martin lacked the integrity that one would assume a commissioner of police would have, I have no faith in the gentleman going alone, So when I get there, I would like to know from the acting commissioner, from these, that the gentleman's interests and the interests of justice would be what is prioritized and not covering up the situation, right? Because there is a next Mr. Jacasal in Guelph, there's a next Mr. Jacasal in St. David's, and many more, and in St. Patrick's, Carriacou, all over the place. And we do not want our citizens to be treated badly by persons who are being paid, who have been hired, who should have been trained to honor the rights of the citizens. Now, the Constitution, yes, Ingram.
I think we need to go further than just this. I think it needs to be constitutionally made a fact or conflict of interest. Needs to become law, and the independent body probably need to be outside of Grenada. That cannot be influenced by Grenadians. They cannot be influenced. They have to be so the board of people who are doing the judging at the time are not the same people. It could be anybody judging at the time. So therefore, there's less chance of corruptibility. Do you understand?
I understand.
That's the first thing. But you have to make it law that no longer is it acceptable that a prime minister can have so much power that they can they have hands in all pies, because if he's corrupt in one area, he's going to be corrupt in all areas. I'm not finished yet. The other thing needs to be done. The police themselves need to be given a vote of no confidence. We have no confidence. You are incompetent, and here are the reasons why you are incompetent. And the people of Grenada, instead of talking about it, need to rise up and say, enough. Enough of you, enough of this government. I need to overthrow the situation by standing up and saying enough, not moaning, not complaining, but by going by law and by saying all the people together, putting their money together and say, right, we're going to take a legal battle towards you. And by law, you have to hurt these people. No more talking. You have to go by law, or you have to go by their pockets, because these laws that are in place have come, and they're in place. These constitutions have come by our slave masters. That's where it started. That's where the problem started. So we need to rewrite the laws across the Caribbean, have more control on our islands, and by doing so, we don't have the corruption we have, or we have less corruption on the island. We can sit here all day long and talking about it, but our political leaders have to say, you know what? We want independence for our people. And once somebody said, hey, they don't agree to have outside people. We should have educated Grenadians who have integrity. Maybe so. Maybe so. But what
I will do the job for free. I will do the job for free.
I'm sure you will do the job for free.
I will ensure that all these corrupt individuals are rooted out of the.
My point is this: when you've got a independent party or independent system where you do not know the names or the faces, and they are kept very quiet, and it's on a spiral, different people, and you don't know who they are. You know that they have no contact with the government themselves, and they don't have to feel any way, shape, or form. The decisions they make are made by laws, or the laws that are in place. They're not made by I know this person, I know that person. Do you understand?
No, what I would say is, I agree with Gene Duncan, because if Pablo was there investigating those corrupt officers, I'm sure that they would have been disciplined according to law. If I was there, or if there were other persons, I do know of many persons who have that integrity that is needed to be placed in such a position. And as I was saying, it is in the law, right?
In that case, hold on. Then in that case, if there's so many educated Grenadians on the island, get them together and start a board. Get them together, start a board, and all this injustice is going at the moment. Get them together, all these educated Grenadians, get them together, set the board up, and say, right, okay, all these people have got injustice. We're going to start a clinic. Bring these people in, and start putting it down, pen and paper, putting down. This is what's happened. This is what's happened. And become the clinic. And then we go to the police and say, can you explain this? This.
So hold on.
And you go to the media with the same thing and say, can you explain this? This. And you start putting pressure in a different kind of way.
Pablo, how you feel about that?
Listen. The comments from Ingram has really touched on some really significant issues, right? One is how trusting we are, right? Or the lack of trust that we have, that many of our people have in our judiciary, really, which is one of the reasons why people voted against the CCJ becoming the final court of appeal. Because there is that feeling across the Caribbean that based on the relationships that exist between judges and politicians, that in many instances you are unlikely to get justice when it gets to that. And that's one of the reasons why people chose to remain with the Privy Council rather than to have the CCJ as the final court of appeal, in spite of the fact that many of these people do feel that there is a need for us to break that colonial relationship overall. But because of that lack of trust in the relationship between our judges, because there's been instances where there's been reason to believe that is political influence that would have caused certain just judgments at certain level to be presented, right? In addition to that, on the domestic front, we have a prime minister in place that is a lawbreaker. And we can say that with impunity, can't we, Earl? We can say that we have a prime minister who is a lawbreaker, who has boasted that I have done something that is in breach of what the regulation is, but it was convenient for me to do so, and I have done so, right? So we have a prime minister that is a known lawbreaker. We have a prime minister that lies with impunity, almost like Donald Trump does, right? And feel that it is okay. And that same prime minister, when it's convenient for him, he would be lashing out against the judiciary and certain judgments, like we saw recently in an interview when he was speaking about the gentleman on Grenada whose place was bulldozed, and he won. Dorset Charles, and he won judgment in the court. And according to the prime minister, he is still saying that the man was a squatter. Although they have appealed the case and it's gone the distance, and the man has won, and so he's saying that the man was a squatter. We have the situation with the cabinet secretary, where he is now saying that she shouldn't have been employed in the way that she was, and he is calling on the previous administration and saying that they did an immoral thing. Well, the Prime Minister doesn't have any moral authority to be saying anybody is immoral.
Immoral,
You know,
immoral.
so that is the environment that we functioning in. So in order for us to be able to pass the kind of legislation that Ingram is referencing, the first thing that we have to do is to change the administration. Because unless we do that, we cannot get to that place, right? We had an exercise prior
hold
to
on.
the
Can I ask you a question?
Right.
Is it different face, same rubbish? Because the different face, same rubbish. Because if the next party if the NDC gets into power, and it's all good talking, if you get into power and you're just as bad or worse than the dictator you got at the moment, there's no point. There needs to be another party.
I agree with you. But I will answer. I will respond to that in two ways. Right.
Okay.
One, NDC has been in office on 2 occasions. 1990.
Yeah. I was in the country when Thomas was in power.
Right. They've been in office on 2 occasions: 1990 to 95 and 2008 to 2013.
Yeah.
And all can bear me out on that. Under the NDC, we have seen a more concerted effort made to allow the institutions of government to work. And seriously, it has worked against them, really, in that they have not been as intimidating and victimizing as this administration have been. And so much so, they had trust in some of the public servants, right, to do the things that professionals would do. And they actually undermine that administration, right? So they have that track record of endeavoring to allow the institutions of government to work. Okay, that's one. The other thing is we have had an exercise in constitutional reform, and you are advocating that certain laws should be enshrined in the Constitution. So which means we would have to go through a process of constitutional reform, right? And we would have to get the public to buy in, because it calls for 2/3 of the voters to vote in favor of whatever is being presented. Yes. So again, it starts with changing the administration for us to get to that point, for us to have meaningful conversation about constitutional reform, so that we can implement those laws, and so that is more humane and more and take more into consideration the citizenry of the country than presently exists.
See that once you've got that, hold on, Earl. Once you've got those laws reformed in place, then things such as police brutality can be addressed.
True.
Better, because the law is in place to prevent to be independent when there's situation that's going on at the moment. So you have to reform the law from the government at the top. The law at the top has to change before you do anything.
So you must change. Just let me say this. So you must change this present administration first. That's the first step.
Not just administration, but the law of the land has to change to suit the people of the land far more, be more favorable to them.
And I am saying to you that unless this administration changes, that is not going to happen, because we have just seen the direction that this administration intended to take us, and it's only because of the pushback from people like Earl and myself and grouping of the young people like Joel Greenidge and others who became part of the conversation, the legal fraternity, and we were ready to picket Parliament on Wednesday, and so that the Prime Minister began to shake in his boot.
Then it shows you have power. It shows you have power, doesn't it not?
Ingram, Ingram, hear this. Now, now, to the people that are looking on, we just had Master Kutain join us. Master Kutain is going to speak about tactics that the Royal Grenada Police Force could use instead of shooting people and killing people and beating up on people, right? So that's why we have Master Kutain. But before we get into the
Master
constitutional
Melvin
changes,
is here.
yes, Master Melvin Kutain. Now,
Melvin,
before we
I
get
didn't realize
into
it's you that line up
into
there, man. Welcome.
yeah, before we get into the referendum, we have to remember that there are laws in place to discipline police officers. We have it in the PSC, we have it in the Police Act, Regulation 32 and 33. In fact, the Police Act speaks about how a police officer should carry his or herself. It also speaks about how you should treat someone is who is incarcerated, if they're detained or not, right? No. No, Master Melvin Kutain is the gentleman who is in charge of the Olive Branch project. Master Melvin Kutain, the reason why he has that name Master in front is because he does Taekwondo and he's one of the very best at what he does, right? So what we want to do is we want to invite the Royal Grenada Police Force. I invited, I must say, the acting commissioner of police to come on to the show, but they have since said that they would let to come, right? So, Master Kuteno, I would like to invite members of the Royal Grenada Police Force to come and get some disciplining from Master Melvin Kutain. This is what Taekwondo is about. It's about discipline. It's about learning to control your anger, learning to control those cravings of stealing cell phones and monies and rings and so on, as what has been done to Mr. Joseph Jacasal, right? But before we get to Master Melvin Kutain, um, there are laws in place at this time to discipline officers and to guide the actions of police officers. But I do agree with Pablo, I do agree with you, and that the administration has the duty and the authority and an obligation to the people of Grenada to ensure that these laws, that these persons under them, the public servants, execute the duties of their officers. But as Pablo said, if we have a gentleman who's in charge of the country who
He's
does
a
not have
lawbreaker.
any integrity,
He's
how
a
does one
lawbreaker.
expect to get
Call a
situations done?
spade, Earl. Our Prime
Thank you.
Minister is a lawbreaker.
You
Yes, he
see,
is.
if
He
you
is.
if you
Our
listen,
Prime Minister is a lawbreaker.
if you
He is.
empower the people into what the laws are and what their rights are, you have a different set of Grenadians. But if people
So,
don't know the laws and people don't
yeah.
know what's going on, it's a police officer, they're in the right. They
So,
have the
Ingram,
authority.
that's why we have this show, right? Give me the next picture. Give me the next picture. So
Yeah.
Pablo and Master Kutain and the others, the persons who are viewing, let us have a look.
Let me see if I can get that picture
So
up for you.
we have the comment. The police need to be trained well and behave with integrity, and that is correct. There's actually a law from the Police Act that says that the police must not be getting angry. They must not show any anger, right? Besides the fact that we know about they should not act without fear or favor, with that oath that they take, there's also a law that says there must be no anger. In fact, Regulation 201 of the Police Act speaks about civility. When an officer is approached by a civilian and asks a question, they must answer properly. So, Master Kutain,
Hey.
could you see the picture that's there?
Yeah. Could see it.
All right. Well, Pablo, could you see the picture?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
All right. Lovely. Ingram, take down that picture there for me, please. Right. So we have had a situation over the last weekend where two officers of the Royal Grenada Police Force, two of our protectors, right, were unable to apprehend two gentlemen. Actually, one gentleman and the next one stepped in because the second gentleman that stepped in is a young gentleman. He believed that his friend's rights were being violated. right? He believed that his friend's rights were being violated. So it was actually a video where we saw that one gentleman, there were a few pushes between the officer and the gentleman, one of the officers and the gentleman. We even saw where the gentleman was sprayed in the face with mace. This happened on the St. George bus terminal. We saw in the video as well um, that after being sprayed in the face, the young man went back to get a bottle. Um, I'm not sure what he was going to do with the bottle. I believe in law, they would say he's going to use it as a missile, right? Probably to throw at the officer or whatever the case is. I did speak to the young man this afternoon. I tried to reach out to him because I found out who it was after. And I was surprised to find out who this young man was because in 2018, 2 years ago, I had a fundraiser at Cameron Park, and that young man came and volunteered. He came and volunteered and did barbecue to raise funds for persons who were sick at the general hospital. So it was a terrible thing to see. It was a terrible thing to see. Ingram, they want to see the video. Ingram, you
They
should
want to
have
see the video.
video there.
Mhm.
You should have the video there.
Let me see what I
Um,
can do.
yeah, Ingram is going to see what he can do. So let me just conclude the part on Mr. Joseph Jacasel. We do not want many more persons or any one person to have to experience what Mr. Jacasal is going through. The police officers, especially the commissioner and Mr. Barney Cohen, you have an obligation to these citizens, to us citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. And in fact, any foreigner that comes into Grenada, um, the authority is there. The authority is yours. It does not matter how a man looks or if a man drinks or if the man is tall or short or fat or white or whatever the case is. We are all entitled to certain rights. And we should not have to take it to the public to get those rights honored. And this, in fact, Pablo, this is why we continue championing that cameras be put in police stations so we can see what is going on. And we need these cameras to be viewed not only by the police because we are scared that they will delete the footage, right? We are scared they will delete the footage. So let me see if I can pull up this video. We have Master Melvin Kutain here, and Master Kutain as an expert in Taekwondo, one that is a Grenadian gentleman who has traveled to China and all over the world and has done martial arts. We have these levels of expertise. And in the comment section, someone said that our officers should go through ongoing training, and we have Master Melvin Coutain who can teach officers basic self-defense practice. As I said, we don't want the officers just going around like they didn't go off shooting people in the leg and in the back and in the chest and so on as they normally do. We don't want that to happen. We don't want to see anybody getting beat up, especially when it's a mentally ill patient. We don't want to see these things happening. So we have Master Melvin Coutain, and I want to ask Master Melvin Coutain, before I ask you, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good
Yeah,
afternoon. It's a pleasure
I wasn't able to stay long with all of this
to have
afternoon.
with all of you.
Yeah.
Master Coutain, if I might ask, now, is there any way that a person, right, could take a person into custody, whether it's a police or a civilian, because we could also effect that citizens arrest as well. Is there any way that someone could take someone into custody without killing them or beating them up?
Yeah, there's several things you could do. The problem is
Uh-huh.
before before you get physical, you
Mm-hmm.
need to have that contact. You're supposed to be able to watch a man, body language, before you approach him and know the type of man you're going to deal with is one. And that is a training by itself. Your approach and how you deport yourself. People take you serious. How you walk the road as a person. People don't interfere. According to your walk, people bully you and if they try to rob you. England, Ingram in England, he should know about that. Who pass through South Trinidad? You could go to a bad village. And according to how you walk and how you carry yourself, nobody in coming from, not even a dog, go back at you. And all of that is training. So when you people hear about martial arts, and a police officer, somebody asks if I'm a police officer. I don't have to. I was working in youth camp. In 85, I went in youth camp. And I spent 6 months training in Trinidad and Tobago Army. And one person there, every minute, because he knew I was doing martial arts, he always used to target me. He was a sergeant. And a day I say, man, watch, I had enough for you, Take out your uniform. The only thing you have more than made your uniform and a gun. Put on your gun, take out your uniform, and I take it out the shot, bear back, and let me try it out. And so I'll drag you all over this floor. You understand? And then the difference between me and them. As a trained man, because you could push a man, but when you reach the limit and you say enough is enough, you're going to retaliate because your back is against the wall. And this is a problem. And between me and you all, Grenada police is still good. When you watch a level of crime in Trinidad, I grew up part of my life in Trinidad. I grew up around people with like Robocop. Me and Robocop was in the same class. People like Lizard, you might know these guys and them. Lizard and these guys and them. I grew up with these guys and them. These guys wasn't bad guys. The system is what make these guys and them bad. And the media, okay? The point is, the police is what create that violence in Trinidad, in the community. The police control some of the blocks back in the days. You guys was talking about constitutional reform a while ago, and you was talking about the how to fix things. The politician can't fix things, Pablo. The problem we have in the Caribbean, we have something in the Caribbean called the Syrian mafia. These is the people that decide who go into office and who come out of office. Okay? And it all comes to capital. And now we're selling passport now to individual with bill who's we boasting now there's billionaires. So the point is if a man could show money, it comes like you have a bag of corn in your house and every month you throw out a handful of corn and them fall come and they pick in your yard and they eat the corn and they disappear for the day. And then next morning, you throw a next handful of corn. This is what election is all about in the Caribbean right now. Election, first 2 years before election, you see roadworks start to pop up, people getting a little toilet going, a man go get a box of back and neck, and he believe that is it. And in between all of that, children passing with that too, Children passing with that too. So therefore, the churches is supporting that. The police is supposed to be protecting you, also supporting that. So therefore, the people lost respect for the police.
So, Master Kuten, I just play in the video and just tell us what you're seeing in the video and what could have been done differently. You see in the video?
What I'm seeing in the video, if this guy was a trained guy, that police could have lost his life.
Look at this, Master Kuten. Look at this.
Yeah.
You seeing that?
Yeah, the police officer wrestling with the guy.
And the police is falling. The police is falling all over himself.
Yeah, he wrestling with the guys. The method of approach is wrong. The method of approach is leading to violence. Okay? Now, I will just bring it back. It had the same thing in Trinidad. I think 2 weeks ago, with I think 3 persons police gone down. Okay? And the people attacked the police technically. But you see how the police handle the crowd? Although people was making noise, there wasn't wrestling. When the police touch one of the men, you see the fight with the police? Because it's a different, because it has something called respect. And the police need to demand. People don't have respect for police in Grenada.
Yeah.
And that
true,
is bad.
True.
People don't have respect, and I just get harassed with that.
Masakute, look at how this officer is just falling all over himself. Falling down.
They don't, everybody cussing them police officer, I showed you. Everybody in the crowd.
Look at this.
Probably
Falling down. Falling down. Look at this. This is crazy. This is crazy. Right, you know, our police officers really need to be trained. There needs to be ongoing training. Right? As I said, the young man in the video in the black, surprisingly enough, can you imagine how surprised I was?
He should be arrested.
Was a gentleman that came and barbecued at a health fundraiser that I did in Cameron Park on Boxing Day on a public holiday 2 years ago. This is a young man that came and helped me. So when I found out that this is the young man, I was shocked. You know, and we really do need to better the relations between police officers and civilians. We really do. You know, I believe based on how we treat people, we can bring out the worst or the best in people. Right? But Pablo, what do you think about that? What do you think about that?
First, I want to say that that issue or that report that you just gave as regards the involvement of this young man in your endeavor to raise funds for charity, and he being present and participating and assisting, it demonstrates to you that depending on how you treat with an individual, you get a different response and a different reception and a different behavior from them, right? So we need more of that coming from people in authority, where you treat with the common man, where you treat him with respect, you treat him with appreciation. He in turn will be forthcoming with you know, in equal manner, right? With that kind of response, and you will get you will ultimately get people to be more responsible citizens, because based on what you said, which means that this young man, he has the capacity to act in a responsible way. Yes. So depending on how you treat with these young people determines the outcome that you are going to get. And if we able to get that across the board, then we will have less incidents of delinquency and some of the violent behavior that we have been experiencing in the recent time in this community. You know.
So, Brother Pablo, what you're basically saying is corruption at the top. If we stop the corruption from the top and we have people that are law abiding, then we'll have an island that is law abiding. But if we have laws to help that, it will make changes. But we still got slave and slave master rules on the island, which are still hurting our people. So those have to be done away with. If we're going to be an independent island, then we need to be independent even with our laws as well.
Yeah. So I believe that is critical, you know, in how we treat with these situations, and that is going to determine the kind of outcome that we are going to have. On the other hand, we based on what Master Melvin was saying, right? We need possibly a different, more professional people to be training our police so that they will be better prepared to handle situations like these. Yes. So that even if it gets to a point where you have somebody that is really aggressive and so, you would know what to do, and you wouldn't be able to, you wouldn't be like we saw in the video there, and as Paul was referring to, where the police is falling all over himself, and you know, and that kind of thing, you know. So it's critical that we get to that, Master Melvin.
Yeah, it come back again, Pablo, right? Let me zoom in around the police and the community.
Right.
Okay. That approach, what the police was doing, the police actually have the man like that in his throat. If I do that, you would like it?
No.
No, no.
All right. So that alone could make anybody aggressive. Even say if you have a dog and it's your dog and you hold the dog in its throat, the dog going to make a snap at you. You do it to a cat, it's going to scratch. Because you're going at you have the man there. That's a big man. But my thing is, right, and I mentioned it already. And as I tell you, these people in this place, sorry, they're discriminating against people. They prefer a man with a higher color to come through here. Okay? And a man with the eye pull across, and you'll get that respect. They brought in somebody from China to work with those police, I think. Right? And
Really?
I was by Dabrio. And the same man who they brought the training police was by, I was there, and the man was talking to us. And he said, but what you're doing is even better than us. And what the white is gonna give all the work to he said, we don't know why. Because he was there. You understand? The Chinese man is telling Dabrio, what I see you're teaching them guys and them here. Okay? It is better than what I am showing them. Okay? They're bringing people from Venezuela, Cuba, and it have persons right here to do the job. There's a Grenadian who come down from Canada to do a workshop for me, and that's why I end up starting the school. He does train the Canadian police. Okay? Dealing with handcuff. What these police and them need to do is something called Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. So
and Master Kuten, sorry for cutting it. No, I know that you're big on community development and everything. You know, if given the opportunity, wouldn't you go and assist the Royal Grenada Police Force? Because as we see here, they you know, it seems as though it was like two school children having a bit of a scuffle. And this is not what you would expect from a highly paid peace officer.
First to begin, I wouldn't recommend to go and teach physical activity. These folks need to study conflict resolution, conscious discipline, management, force. Because the police approached the man aggressively with anger. He responded back with anger. If, regardless of what we might think of America and England, and they're killing our people, listen to police, ma'am, could you put your hand up? Ma'am, can I see your driver's license? Ma'am, I'm going to arrest you. Could you put your hand behind your back? Discipline. They didn't just go and grab you in your throat and grab you in your arm. And no, ma'am, could you sit on the ground? Ma'am, could you lie on your belly? You understand? This is and that is training. It's not just going and watch a big man. I see an incident in the line. I think you post a video and a police, he does SSU guy, he does lift weights. One fella, they fighting up with a young boy. Before he sweep the man off the ground and drop him and handcuff him. A big strong one come and hold him man like he pulling a cow. And he hold him man and he pulling him out into the van. Now he said this young man had a knife in his waist or something. Why is he turning his head pulling him now? He ended up putting it on him now. He lost his life. Because why? He feels strong. And not as big as a man, as strong as a man is David Choran Goliath with a little stone. So yeah, it all boils down to training and reasoning. And self-esteem in Grenada is pretty low.
It's true, you know, and you know, Master Kutain, the thing is, I am certain that if a police officer has to approach someone in a jacket and tie, they would approach them much differently than if they were to approach somebody in a you know in attire such as mine, a cheap slipper, a jeans pants, and a jersey.
You should know better. If it was a person of that didn't look like us, we hate one another. Right? We hate one another. I tell you, if it was a foreigner, they never treat them the same way. Never.
You're correct. You're correct. You know, in the police law, let me just read a law for it just to show that the law recognizes each individual the same. Even in the Constitution, it says, whereas every person in Grenada. So it doesn't say certain people. Then we have here, Now, Section 32, Regulation 32, protection for the public. It says every member of the community has a claim to the constable's full consideration. And the property of the poorest individual is entitled to equal protection with that, right? The poorest individual is entitled to equal protection with
Yeah,
that
but
of others,
yeah,
right?
but hold on. Well, wait, hold on. We'll pick sense from nonsense. That law is there, yeah. But from the poorest person can't defend themselves because the poorest person can't pay for a solicitor to defend themselves. And even when they go to defend themselves, they can't go and see a solicitor because the majority of them are corrupt as it is. And then they go to the judges and they're corrupt. So how can they defend themselves? The poorest person can't. A rich person will find it difficult to defend themselves, let alone a poor person. So even if it's put in law, if you read between the lines, you don't stand a chance.
No, let me tell you what the importance of knowing this and knowing the
Okay.
laws of the country. The
All right.
importance is many
Tell me.
people accept injustice because they believe they don't have rights. Many people, right?
I think
Pablo,
she has more
you
power.
know, one of the greatest things is that Pablo's show that he's going to be doing every Saturday, right? His first show was about emancipation, right? Emancipation. How did we get out of slavery? Well,
Now we're still in slavery.
yeah. So how did we get out of slavery? You know, but Harriet Tubman said that she would have been able to free more slaves if they knew they were slaves, right? So it is our duty to let people know that they have rights and it is enshrined in the laws because unless someone sees it or hears that it is there, they would believe based on how we have been treated by the police, we have no rights. Master Kute, I just finished it. So that is why persons normally give up the struggle because they believe in Grenada we cannot win the police. That's Master Kute.
Which right you're talking about? The right in the book or the writing of a letter? Because it have two type of right in the world for we. Okay? Abu Bakr, I listen to Abu Bakr a lot, and the commissioner of police are here washing Bakr today. I throw water on the commissioner, but you're gone. Bakr say there's two type of law. There's a law for the rich, and there's the law for the poor. Okay? Ingram is saying what you say, and a poor man commit a crime, they can always throw a gun on him, and he get a criminal charge what he don't know about, and he might even get a pound of weed on him also, which he don't even know nothing about. You know? So the system again, and the same rich man child, they'll find a pound of weed on him and a gun on him, but if he a rat, does end up eating the weed. Gun does end up disappear. So, and then that person, that person wouldn't spend a night in the cell. Look at the number of cases happen over the years. What come out of it?
So, you know, Master Kutin, what I'd say, you know, the problem is not the law, you know. The problem is the application of the law. That is what the problem is, applying the law. The persons who are supposed to apply these laws, because we do have rights. The Community Relations Department has been set up for persons like Mr. Jack Assal, right, whose items have been stolen by police officers. It has been set up to appreciate that man's injustice and to bring him.
Oh,
why is it
right? No confidence. Wait. No confidence. No confidence in the police. No confidence in the government, and no confidence in any customer service whatsoever. So there needs to be the people of Grenada need to demand it so much. Starting with yourself, sir, Mr. Empowerment Movement, to set up a clinic, and for those educated Grenadians that are out there, as the young lady so rightly said, that want to help out, now's the time to get together. Enough of the talking. Get your clinic together. Get it cleared together, and all these injustices that are going on, start to teach people their rights. Start to do open evenings where you can get people to talk about find out more about their rights on a weekly basis.
remember, that's why we have the show to educate people on the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
rights.
The show is one thing, but on the
But
ground,
no, yeah. But remember, Ingram, I have been
yeah,
going to the police with victims over the years. Master Kutain can tell you that over the
yeah,
years,
yeah. But
right?
hold on. But now
Uh-huh.
you're doing it on. You got a show doing it, and now you start to build. You start to
Mhm.
bring people together, and when you start bringing people together, not one and two, when they
Mhm.
start coming in their hundreds, and they start rallying like they go to NDC or NNP, and they start coming to you and saying, "Hey, we want to see justice," and people see you really going to them and putting it to them, you'll see change because
But
they'll
that's
have to.
okay. We don't worry. We bring 4 people together this afternoon. We will continue, right, Pablo? Master Kutain.
Definitely so, and it takes us back. It takes us back to some point that was made earlier on. The
Mhm.
need to institutionalize certain things. The need to have that kind of oversight body. The need to establish, to concretize that advocacy that is taking place here right now. I mean,
Mhm.
you, Earl, you're very versed in those constitutional issues. We have Cassandra Mitchell, who is equally as versed in those constitutional issues, right? If we can put the framework in place, that we can begin that kind of advocacy going on the ground and going into the communities and so, right?
Mhm.
Having more of these kind of engagements, enlightening people of what their rights are under the Constitution. And not
Mhm.
only that, but you can have an entity that will have that responsibility, so that people know that when they have a situation, you don't go, while you report to the public relation arm of the police, you
Mhm.
also take your matter to these people who are
Thank
going
you,
to advocate on your behalf. Along
thank you,
with
bro.
that,
Preach it,
in the
brother.
same way,
Mhm.
that we have just seen the legal fraternity, the lawyers,
Mhm.
coming up against that bill, we need to have some of them to buy into that, so that you
Correct.
know when you have that situation, you know that there is going to be an attorney that
Mhm.
have your back, that is going to be there to provide the legal framework and the legal backing for whatever it is going forward. So as I say again, it's all about building the appropriate institutions, because
Mhm.
society depends, for society to work as it's supposed to, it depends on established institutions and institutions that work as they're supposed to.
Sadly,
So, Brother
I know you
Pablo.
say all this, but sadly,
Mhm.
a lot of people will not buy into that until their family or their members or somehow somebody close to them is affected by it. So whilst people turn around and say, well, there's a lot of educated Grenadians, a lot of people's education comes from them getting licks. And then they say, oh, we need this now. And then they turn, rather than be proactive and say, we need this, we appreciate this, we need this on the island. We value what Earl Maitland is doing on the island. So people should be rallying around what Earl's doing.
No, but
They should be rallying around people like Earl.
instead of that, they brand new.
There we go.
All right now, all is Nike. The brand, the brand.
Master Melvin made a point a while ago about conflict resolution.
Amen.
And we've seen recently, there have been two significant incidents that took place in the tongue of war, right?
Mhm.
One
Mhm.
with the police shooting, and then the other one with one man killing the other. And
Mhm.
that second incident, it really highlights the fact that there is need for that level of conflict resolution. Because
Mhm.
you know what's happening? There is an ingrained mindset in many young people now that whenever you're faced with a conflict, right,
Mhm.
it has to end with a knife or a
Oh,
cutlass,
done.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I had a story. I had a story from a relative of mine recently, and he told me of an incident, an experience he had in that same environment, where someone he had some words with, for whatever reason, there was some words between them. And the young man was very aggressive and making threats and so. And he said to him, you behaving like that because you know you have your backers there and all of you all are armed. Put your arms down and let's have it out here. I'll punch you back to meet them. And you know what the guy said to him? Man, don't fight like that anymore. So it tells you that there is that mentality that when you in a conflict situation, this is how you resolve it. You take a knife. I saw recently, as a consequence of that incident happening, the media was interviewing some of the people in the community. And many of them, you know what was coming out of them? The two guys were friends. The two guys were friends and they've been drinking together and they've been eating together. And so, how do you, as friends, turn around and because there's a conflict between you, that you turn around and you kill a friend? And we hear of that all over and over again. There was an incident in St. Andrew not so long ago. And you understand, the two guys were friends, right? So we in that space right now when there are so many young people that their mindset is like a premeditated something because you have programmed your mind that anytime you come into a conflict, irrespective of who it is, it could be your friend that you've been sharing whatever with. That is how you are going to resolve it. So conflict resolution is critical going forward. That's how you deal with these things. You know, one more thing I want to say is that subsequent to that, there was a meeting with the police and the same citizen advisory, whatever they call certain people to the meeting. And one gentleman there, he was asking the question, what is it? What is the real problem? Right? Is it okay? We have the killings, but what is what's the root cause? Because oftentimes we just treat the symptoms. Yes, we just address the symptoms of what's happening and we don't get to the root cause. And in order for us to get to the root cause, then we have to go into the communities and sit down with these young people and get them to express themselves. I've seen it happen before. I've seen interventions where people who in that same environment turn around and ended up going back to the New Life organization, which is an institution that train people in skills training and so, and go back and register and become students and so on. You see, so it's the kind of intervention that makes the difference in the kind of outcome that you get.
Okay. And this is where you did Pablo, they up my alley. This is the reason why I come up with the Olive Branch program, because 25 years ago I saw that what happening in Grenada now, that crime, I saw it and I've been talking about it. If I go back and play my videos from 2006, come back, you'll hear what I was saying. Okay? Besides conflict resolution, the police need to be to taught the police that so when they approach people home, they approach persons, they know how to approach them as one. The young man in the community that's stabbing and killing every week, I think somebody lost their life this weekend again. Now, this issue is they put down men. Grenada is what they call a feminist society. I can tell you that. Okay? All is right there. Over 2 million euro come to Grenada to assist with self-defense of women and to assist with the development of women. You know who they have there? Miss this woman was a Gary Day. Oh, what's your name? Oh, what's your name?
I don't know. I don't know.
Gloria
Gloria Payne Banfield.
She's about 80 years, right?
Gloria Payne.
Yeah. This is the type of person they had because there is money. So everybody wants to put their hand in it. And the issue is not seeing how we could really help these women to empower themselves with that money. Okay? No, the issue is if you don't train these people and them, and you have a young man, and every time you see these set of women groups putting on men in Grenada, every time you keep on seeing the putting on men, and black man this and black man that and black man the other, what you expect you're going to get in the long run? You're not teaching, you bring a child in the world. You're not teaching them about love. You're not teaching them to take care of a girl child. You're not teaching them how to have mannerism and how to have decorum. You don't teach them how to keep a job. how to have a skill in your hand. And what you will do now, election time, call you're buying rum and you're giving him to get him to vote for you. And then you're giving him, you might build a little wooden house for him. And you keep him close on your side because you could use him. The ending up of the day, what you think you're going to get. And that is the anger I have inside of me with these people and them, all this money coming for all this sort of youth program and all these sort of things. You understand? And then you hear a young man, every time a young man lost his life in Grenada, the blood is on the Ministry of Youth and these places and them because they are getting money and there's people in these offices receiving a salary to assist. And when you go to them and you're willing to do things because you need community leaders. Where is the community leaders? When I growing up, I had what they call mentors. Pablo, there's times I will call you and talk to you because I see you as a mentor. I won't call anybody and talk. A person I always call and talk to was Martin Red, he gone now. That was a very good friend. I used to call him as a mentor. They say, Martin, look so, you give me advice. You as a young man in the community, who's your mentor? Who, the drug pusher? The prostitute in the area and the night you go and you get a little kick and feel good? Who's your mentor? You go to the pastor, you want to climb your back. And what they're telling you, what they're actually telling you, in the church, is something that over 2,000 years, we're living in a modern world. How are we going forward? Where's the leaders? And that is my query there, Pablo. With what you
Master Kutin,
yeah.
could you see the video I'm playing here?
Yes. You see them things, that we there? These are the type of thing that police need to be learning.
Master Kutin, how long would it take to teach the police officers how to do things like this?
Less than 3 weeks. If they're willing to learn.
How long would it? If they're willing to learn, how long you think it might take? Because how long?
Less than 3 weeks.
Less than 3 weeks because
if that policeman they put that man into that bar, you think he'd be fighting up and pushing him and getting on that way? And the next friend that runs the bottle, the next friend that walked the bottle, you apprehended, you're playing with these guys and them and arguing and making. Come on,
Master Kutin, what about this move? How long would it take to teach the police officers this?
These things I'm taking less than 3 weeks to do, less than a week.
Less than 3 weeks. So we can have our officers doing this instead of pulling out a gun and shooting people in the leg and in the chest and in the back. Is that what you say?
This is the type of thing. This is the type of thing them police supposed to be learning. This is what they call jiu-jitsu, like Japanese jiu-jitsu. It have the Brazilian jiu-jitsu and it have the Japanese jiu-jitsu. This is the type of things them police are them supposed to be doing. Pressure points and all kind of. You don't have to hit a man and draw blood from the man. You hold him in certain locks and talk to him. Calm yourself down. Calm yourself down. You hold your little finger. You hold your big thumb. You don't have to put your hand in the man's throat and choke him. No.
So Master Kutin, that part of the video there where you're actually holding the guy's hand and just walking, making him walk behind you, right? That was which finger he was holding there?
His small finger. Your small finger control your whole arm. If you study reflexology, this finger here control your arm. So if I hold this finger in a certain position, I paralyze this whole side of your body. So therefore, you hold a man in that regardless of what he had to calm down. He has to calm down.
So no like school children back and forth like what we saw in the video there with the police officer.
No, that's that.
So 3 weeks.
Yeah, well, them guys, if you put a man and you learn these things, and you put a man under submission, the rest of men they're gone. They're gone.
But Master Kutin, you know, I'm really concerned. Seeing that our officers have been to training school for 6 whole months, sometimes 3 months, but 6 whole months the majority of the time. 6 whole months and they're unable to do. And what it did there, that was a basic self-defense move. Yeah?
You can't train a police officer in 6 months to face the public. Hello, you remember we slave children? Our people been through slavery. Okay? We was brutalized. We was do something what they call braca master, where when you talk hard to the master tie on a chair and he solemn you in front of your family.
Yeah. So
your pants drop down. So we have a lot of anger inside of us. So you have to know when you're approaching a black man or West Indian man, you have to know how you're coming because you're already agitated already because you've been put down every day. You've been put down in life. People stamping on your head. People telling you that's like you're talking, and a man in this area is telling you, you're stupid, you're stupid. And next man in this area is telling you, you're stupid, you're stupid. What you expect you to give? Because that is what you're hearing every day about the young man in the community, the little young black boy. How much of them children, the high collar children in Grenada, going through these things? Is only our tribe. Only our tribe, and it's our own that doing this to us. That was it.
Master Kute, 1 second. I know brother Pablo, and we supposed to be normally, it's normally we have for an hour, but we look at where we have gotten.
Not even
again,
we've gone well past the hour.
Yeah,
we've gone past an hour and a half.
Yeah. We could continue next week. I mean, the show is every Monday, dealing specifically with police in Grenada, Cargo, and Pitimani, because of course we do want to see our officers doing much better than they are. We want to better that relationship there between civilians and police officers. We would like, to see our officers walking with high esteem and knowing that they can not only protect themselves, but they can protect us as well. We want to encourage. We want to encourage all the young men out there that, much like that young gentleman there, life is not easy, but we do not encourage any forms of violent protest and so on. Especially picking up bottles in public. To possibly launch behind a police officer and so on. There are things that could be done, in a peaceful way. We don't want to see anybody getting hurt. That includes you, an innocent bystander, and the police. We do not want to see that occurring at all. Brother Pablo, any last words?
My last word is, first I want to let you know that Brother Dennis Charles is interested in joining that show next time around there. So if you can invite him and get him to come in on. All right?
Not a problem. Yeah.
I just want to close by saying we do not want to live in a society where we feel that level of insecurity from the people who are supposed to protect us. We want to be assured that if we are in breach, we'll be treated fairly. No one is perfect, and something can happen that will cause the police to have to intervene. And you want to be assured that if you arrested, if you detained, as is now standard procedure, when you are arrested, they will remove certain articles from you. You want to know that when you come from there, you will be able to retrieve whatever they did take from you and not end up in the situation that Brother Earl been highlighting here. I would really love to see us get to the point where we can institutionalize that level of advocacy and that level of involvement, that level of sensitization of people to have a greater appreciation of what the law is, what the rights are, right? Okay, presently you are doing this, you're doing a great job. From time to time, we see Sister Cassandra Mitchell. She's always posting stuff, different elements of the Constitution and all of that. Let's take it to another level, okay? Let's try to take that to another level so that we can have programs. We can have a more coordinated effort because I saw a gentleman recently, one of the leaders, black leaders in the US, and he put up a chart and he was identifying, he was showing you how many black leaders and people of influence that's doing different things in different spaces, but
Wow.
everyone is doing their own thing. And then he turned on the other side, and what you had was like the makings of a spider web, and how when you join all of these together, how strong it would be. And he made a reference to an old African saying, which went something like that: when you join spider web together, you can tie up a lion. So this is what is needed going forward, that all those persons who's involved at that level, right, can pull the forces together and make a concerted effort to help to address not the symptoms, but the true cause of what has us at this point in time where we at, and addressing a wider range of issues. I rest my case for here now. And thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be on this
Thank you
platform.
for being here. Thank you
And
for
to be
being here.
speaking to the world.
A privilege to have you here. You know, Master Kutain, any final words? You know, if you want to invite the police to come to you, so you can train them, because we really do need your type of expertise there.
Yeah.
As I said, not only to protect us, but to protect the police as well.
Yeah.
We have in the comment here,
Yeah.
Tola J said that most of them appear to be in poor physical shape. You want their hearts to collapse from exerting this amount of energy. You know, and
You see,
that's true.
you see that, yeah, but you see that disrespect. You see, people have no respect for the police in Grenada, and that is bad. The police need to stamp down the authority and gaining the respect, not by getting physical with people. It's according to how you move within the community. You have to be leaders. Okay? A few police officers meet man and talk to me at that level, but I haven't seen them. I don't push because I know. You see my complexion? People don't like to see people like me doing what I'm doing. But I could help. I could help. Okay? And as I said, if I had to work with and I get an opportunity to work with a few officers, I'll put them sit down first thing and teach them about conscious discipline, conflict resolution. This is that is a powerful thing. Method approach is important. And then again, apprehending a man is a next thing. You need to know the heart of that man. You could touch, you could just imagine you go in a ring to fight with a man, whether he's from Africa, China, you don't know him. But by the first punch or kick that man throw at you, you know the type of man you're dealing with. You know how to fight that man just by the first blow. And according to the first blow you throw at him, you know whether you could beat him or not. And that is spirit. These things don't happen just so. It all comes with discipline and training. And this is what missing. It's not just go to force and train for 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. And then after getting the force and you keep people ticket to get stripes by the end of the year. And then you start to live a life and then the businessmen start to call you and you're doing front of Kentucky, let's say fried chicken, and then this one by this one is, and your belly start to grow. And you forget you're a police officer. You're supposed to be physically well built. You're supposed to carry there's a certain way you have to walk. You can't sit down anyhow and you can't be any simple as you're watching me all. You don't see me in a rum shop lineman. You don't see me on the block. I always groom. Because why? I have a responsibility for the students who I teach and the people who looking up at me and even my masters. I must carry myself a certain way. So this is my final word. Thank you.
Right. So once again, you know, we aim to about their rights. We do not want this to reach a point where we would have an iteration of what has happened over the weekend with persons taking away our rights and then even taking it even further, as we tend to allow things to go on and on, you know. things will eventually get worse. So every little situation that occurs, we need to deal with it appropriately. You know what they say, when you actually give somebody an inch, they will take a mile. What we saw was the persons in authority taking a pile of miles. But we want to thank everybody for viewing. Thank you, Brother Pablo, for being here. It has been a real privilege to have you here. We, of course, we will speak to with Mr. Dennis Charles as well. All good people, all Grenadian nationals, patriots. We have Master Melvin Coutin, who is always there with the Olive Branch Project and so on. And someone that could be a valuable asset to the Royal Grenada Police Force. We do hope that they do reach out to Master Coutin so we would not have a repetition of what continues to occur, where police officers have been beaten by even young bus conductors who are probably about 5 feet tall. We had that incident, I believe, in 2015, 2016, around there. We really need to take national security seriously in Grenada, honor the rights of our people. We do not want any situations, any further situations like what Mr. Jacasal has gone through. And persons' rights should be appreciated, and it does not matter what they are wearing, how they look, right? It does not matter. We really need to take things from a more humane perspective. So once again, thank you everybody for being here. We do appreciate it. Next week we will be back discussing um, policing in Grenada and try to better situations that have been occurring over the last few decades. Um, Thank you, Ingram. Are you there? Ingram has disappeared,
You have a
right?
problem with the camera.
Yeah. So Ingram, we're finished.
Mm.
So Ingram is